Only 5% of seniors can do these 5 things after 70, improve longevity and health today. Good evening, everyone. Aging is a natural part of life, but the way we age is in our hands. Did you know that only 5% of seniors over 70 can do 5 key things that significantly impact their longevity and health? The truth is, most people assume that decline is inevitable, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be. Today, we'll discuss the 5 essential habits that separate the healthiest, most active seniors from the rest. And more importantly, I'll share how you can start improving your health today, no matter your age. Let's dive in. Strength is not just about lifting weights or looking fit. It's about maintaining your independence, your dignity, and your ability to engage with the world as you age. When people hit their 70s, they often start to feel like their bodies are betraying them. Aches become more persistent. Movement becomes more difficult. And simple tasks like getting up from a chair or climbing the stairs feel like monumental challenges. But here's the real tragedy. It's not aging itself that does this to people. It's neglect. It's the gradual decline that comes from years of inactivity, from believing that it's normal to slow down, that it's expected to become frail. And so most people do exactly that. They let themselves become weak, and before they know it, they've lost control over their own physical existence. But the healthiest 5% don't accept that fate. They maintain their mobility and strength because they understand something fundamental. If you don't actively work to keep your body strong, you will lose that strength. And once you lose it, getting it back is exponentially harder. That's why they make movement a non-negotiable part of their daily lives. They lift things, they stretch, they move with intention. They don't just sit in a chair all day waiting for their bodies to deteriorate. They fight against it. And the best part? It doesn't take hours in the gym. It doesn't take extreme effort. It takes consistency. A simple routine of body weight exercises, squats, push-ups against the wall, lifting small weights, using resistance bands can keep your muscles engaged. And strength training isn't just about building muscle, it's about preserving function. If you can stand up from a chair without using your hands, that's a good sign. If you struggle with it, that's a warning. The difference between someone who remains independent into their 80s and someone who needs constant assistance often comes down to one thing: leg strength. The stronger your legs, the less likely you are to fall. And falls, statistically speaking, are one of the greatest risks to longevity. Once an elderly person breaks a hip, the downward spiral begins. But it doesn't have to. The way to prevent that isn't complicated. It's training yourself to be strong enough so that your body can catch you when you stumble. And it's not just strength, it's flexibility and balance. The healthiest seniors don't just walk, they move with control. They stretch to keep their joints fluid. They work on their balance so they can react when they need to. They don't let themselves become stiff, because stiffness leads to immobility and immobility leads to decline. They recognize that mobility isn't just about being able to take a walk. It's about reaching for something on a high shelf without losing your balance. It's about bending down to pick something up without hurting yourself. It's about being able to get out of bed without assistance. These are basic things, but when you lose them, you lose more than function, you lose freedom. The real tragedy is that people assume that decline is inevitable, so they stop trying. They sit more, they move less, and that speeds up the deterioration. But it's a choice. You either challenge your body regularly or you let it waste away. The healthiest seniors don't let themselves become passive participants in their own aging. They take responsibility for their physical state because they understand that no one else can do it for them. No doctor, no medication, no amount of wishful thinking will replace the need for movement. If you want to be part of that 5%, you have to start now. Even if you've lost strength, you can rebuild it. Even if you've neglected mobility, you can improve it. But you have to make the decision to move. to engage with your body, to stop accepting weakness as an unavoidable reality, because it's not. It's just what happens when you don't fight back. People vastly underestimate just how much control they have over their own longevity, over their own health, and over the way they experience aging. They assume that decline is this gradual, inevitable force, like a train moving down the tracks, unstoppable. And yet, if you look at the healthiest people over 70, the ones who are still active, still moving, still engaged with life, they share one thing in common. They've taken responsibility for their cardiovascular health. They haven't allowed themselves to fall into the slow decay of inactivity, the quiet surrender to a sedentary life. And the difference between them and the vast majority, it's not genetics, it's not luck, it's the simple, deliberate decision to move. And here's what most people don't realize. Your heart is a muscle. And like any other muscle, it weakens if you don't use it. The heart is meant to be challenged. It's designed to pump blood efficiently, to deliver oxygen to your muscles, to keep everything in your body running smoothly. But the moment you stop pushing it, the moment you stop moving, it starts to deteriorate. You become sluggish, you become weak. You take a flight of stairs and suddenly you're out of breath. And most people take that as a sign that they should avoid physical exertion altogether. But that's exactly the wrong conclusion. That discomfort, that's not proof that you should slow down. It's proof that you already have, and your body is screaming for you to do something about it. The healthiest 5% don't wait until their bodies start breaking down to take action. They walk, they swim, they cycle. They do whatever it takes to keep their hearts working the way they were designed to. And they do it not because they feel like it every day, not because they're particularly motivated all the time, but because they understand the consequences of not doing it. They recognize that movement is not optional. It is the single greatest predictor of whether you will be thriving in your 80s or struggling in your 70s. And the science backs this up. Regular cardiovascular activity reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, all the major killers. But even more than that, it gives people back their energy, their ability to engage with the world. You don't want to be the person who has to sit down every 5 minutes because you're too winded to enjoy life. You want to be the person who can go for a walk with your grandchildren, who can explore new places, who doesn't feel limited by your own body. And the only way to get there is to start moving now. The mistake people make is that they assume exercise has to be extreme, that if they're not running marathons, it's not worth doing. But that's just another excuse to avoid responsibility. The truth is, just 30 minutes of moderate activity a day can completely transform your health. That could be a brisk walk, that could be riding a bike, that could be as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator. The method doesn't matter as much as the consistency. The people who live the longest, the healthiest, they don't just work out once in a while. They build movement into their daily lives. They make it a habit, something that is just as fundamental as eating or sleeping. And the real secret, once you start moving regularly, you feel better. Your energy improves, your mood improves, your body starts working the way it was meant to. And suddenly exercise isn't this dreadful thing you force yourself to do, it becomes something you want to do because it makes life better, it makes you better. So you have a choice. You can either let your heart weaken, let yourself become more fragile, more tired, more incapable, or you can take action. You can push yourself even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it, because your future self is entirely dependent on what you choose to do today. People assume that cognitive decline is inevitable, that as they age, their minds will just naturally start to slow down, their memory will fade, their ability to think critically will deteriorate. And because they assume it, they allow it to happen. They let their minds go dormant. They stop challenging themselves. They stop engaging with new ideas, with new experiences, with anything that forces them to think in a way they haven't before. And the moment that happens, the moment they stop using their minds with intention, is the moment decline begins. But the healthiest 5%, the ones who remain sharp well into their later years, they don't make that mistake. They understand that the brain, like the body, is something that has to be exercised, that it has to be challenged, that it has to be pushed beyond what's easy, beyond what's comfortable, if it's going to stay strong. And the key to that isn't just doing crossword puzzles or playing memory games, though those things certainly don't hurt. It's actively engaging with the world in a way that requires real effort. Think about it. When was the last time you learned something difficult? Not just passively absorbed information, not just skimmed through a news article, but actually sat down and wrestled with a concept that was foreign to you, something that forced you to think in a new way that required effort and discipline. Most people don't do that past a certain age. They fall into routines. They do the same things. They think the same thoughts, and then they wonder why their minds aren't as sharp as they used to be. But it's no mystery, if you stop using a muscle, it atrophies. And the brain is no different. The healthiest seniors, the ones who stay mentally sharp, they are constantly learning. They take on new challenges. They pick up new skills. They read books that force them to think. They engage in conversations where they have to articulate their thoughts clearly. They don't just sit back and let the world pass them by. They stay in it, fully engaged, fully present. And it's not just about knowledge. It's about problem solving. It's about putting yourself in situations where you have to adapt, where you have to think critically, where you have to make decisions and take responsibility for them. This is why social interaction is so crucial. Because when you talk to people, when you engage in real discussions, you are forced to think, to respond, to articulate, to listen. And that keeps the mind active. And let's not forget about the connection between physical health and mental health. And exercise, for example, doesn't just strengthen your body, it improves brain function. The healthiest 5% are moving, they're active, and that has a direct impact on their cognitive ability. The brain needs oxygen, it needs good circulation, it needs stimulation. A sedentary lifestyle doesn't just weaken the body, it dulls the mind. But here's the most important part. Staying sharp isn't just about avoiding decline, it's about maintaining agency over your own life. Because once you lose your ability to think clearly, to make decisions, to process information effectively, you lose control. You become dependent on others, on systems, on people who may not have your best interests at heart. And that is a fate worse than aging. So what do? You challenge yourself. You engage with difficult ideas. You refuse to let your mind go idle. You read things that make you uncomfortable. You have conversations with people who think differently than you do. You learn new skills no matter how old you are. Because the moment you stop learning, the moment you stop growing, that's when decline truly begins. The choice is simple. You either stay engaged or you fade away. People like to believe that what they eat doesn't really matter. That as long as they're getting enough calories to keep going, they'll be fine. But that's an illusion, and it's one that catches up with almost everyone. The body is an unbelievably complex system, and it requires the right fuel to function properly, yet most people spend decades consuming processed, nutrient-deficient foods that do nothing but slowly degrade their health. And then when they hit their 60S or 70S and start feeling sluggish, when their joints ache, when their energy disappears, they assume it's just aging. They assume that's just the way it is. But it isn't. The healthiest 5%, the ones who remain strong, clear-headed, and capable well into their later years, they don't eat like everyone else. They don't fill themselves with sugar, processed grains and empty calories, they understand that food is not just about enjoyment, it's about survival, about longevity, about maintaining the ability to live the kind of life they want to live. They eat with purpose. They eat to support their body, not to satisfy momentary cravings. And that's the difference. And it's not complicated. It doesn't require extreme dieting. It doesn't mean giving up everything you love. But it does mean being conscious of what you're putting into your body, conscious of the long-term effects of your choices. The healthiest people prioritize real whole foods. They eat lean proteins. They eat healthy fats. They eat vegetables that are rich in vitamins and minerals. They make sure they're getting what their bodies actually need rather than just filling themselves up with what's convenient. Because the truth is, convenience is the enemy of health. The more processed a food is, the less it serves you. And hydration, this is another thing that people just don't take seriously. The majority of people are walking around in a state of chronic dehydration without even realizing it. They feel tired, they feel foggy, their digestion isn't working properly, and they never stop to think that maybe, just maybe, their body is screaming for something as simple as water. The body is made up largely of water, and yet people act like drinking enough of it is some kind of optional luxury. The healthiest 5% don't make that mistake. They hydrate. They make sure their bodies have the fluid they need to function at full capacity. They don't wait until they're thirsty to drink, because by the time you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And the most incredible thing about all of this, these are simple choices. They don't require wealth. They don't require an advanced degree in nutrition. They just require discipline. They require you to take your health seriously, to recognize that every bite of food, every sip of liquid is either pushing you toward vitality or pulling you toward decline. There is no neutral. You are either strengthening your body or weakening it with every single choice you make. And when you eat the right foods, when you nourish yourself properly, everything changes. Your energy improves. Your immune system becomes stronger. Your body repairs itself more efficiently. Your brain functions better. And suddenly aging isn't this terrifying, inevitable collapse. It's just another phase of life. One where you can still be strong, still be engaged, still be capable, but only if you've built the foundation for it. Most people don't, and that's why they struggle. That's why they deteriorate, because they spent decades ignoring what their body needed, and by the time they realized it, the damage was done. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose to eat with purpose. You can choose to hydrate properly. You can choose to give your body what it needs instead of what it's been conditioned to crave. And when you do, you won't just survive, you'll thrive. Now let's be honest, aging well takes effort, but the rewards are priceless. Imagine being able to move freely, think clearly, and enjoy life to the fullest at 70, 80, or beyond. The key is to start today. No matter where you are on your health journey, small changes can lead to big improvements. So commit to at least one positive habit today. Whether it's taking a short walk, eating a healthy meal, or doing a brain-boosting activity. Because the truth is, aging well isn't just for the lucky few, it's for those who take action. Will you be part of that 5%? The choice is yours. Thank you.